At the March 30th, 2020 board meeting, the West Geauga Board of Education approved a resolution to suspend portions of certain bylaws which were not consistent with board meetings by telephone or video conference. A second resolution was passed on December 14th, 2020, extending the board's ability to meet via electronic means until July 1st, 2021. This resolution ensures compliance with Ohio Amended Substitute House Bill 197 as extended by the passage of HB 404. At this time, the Board of Education will continue its meetings by telephone conference, video conference, or other similar technologies. This meeting is a meeting of the West Geauga Local School District Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the West Geauga Local School District's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. Please use the chat room function located at the bottom of the webpage if you would like to be recognized for public participation. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ramey.
Here.
Ms. Leavenworth.
Yes.
Dr. Beers.
Here.
Mr. Katowski.
Here.
And Jim will do his magic and we can rise. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
Yes, sir. We removed resolution 162 on limited contracts and renumbered the resolutions as you see them on the electronic version.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? as
Move
amended?
approval as amended.
Second.
Roll call, please.
You're muted, Karen.
Sorry. Dr. Beers.
Yes.
Mr. Katowski.
Yes.
Ms. Leavenworth.
Yes.
Mr. Ramey.
Yes. Okay, we have presentations.
I have one brief presentation and one longer presentation tonight. Jim, I'll let you introduce the first one, please.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Megan Bellin came to me several weeks ago with the idea of creating a video to kind of say thanks to all the different factions that have gotten us through the last year. So I'm not going to give too much more of an introduction of this, but I'm going to share my screen and the video is about 2 minutes long. So sit back and enjoy.
Wrong one.
We at Lindsay Elementary want to thank our Board of Ed.
Jim, wrong one.
I'm just guessing that.
Right voice.
Right voice, wrong person.
I'm
Okay, let's
looking
try that
forward
again.
to musical accompaniment for the next presentation as
Do
well.
you see the blue screen?
Yes.
We at Lindsay Elementary want to thank our Board of Education as well as our superintendent for helping keep us safe at school this year. We also want to thank our teachers, our proctors, our cafeteria workers, our custodians, and everyone else, including our bus drivers, who have helped make this possible. We especially want to thank our students, our parents, and the broader community for helping make this a successful year we'll never forget.
Thank you, Board of Education, for giving us a wonderful year. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, all the teachers, for making our classes interesting this year. Thank you to the cafeteria staff for giving us lunches every day. Thank you to the proctors for letting us have recess every day. Thank you to the custodians for keeping our school clean. Thank you, everyone, for helping us learn and grow.
Thank you for the bus drivers for getting us to and from school safely.
Thank you to the nurses at keeping us safe at school. We want to thank the office staff for what they do every day. Thank you to our specials teachers. Art, music, library, guidance, band, and gym. Thank you, Mrs. Bellin. We thank everyone for getting us through the year.
We specifically want to thank the Board of Education, the teachers, the proctors, the custodians, administrators, nurses, office staff, bus drivers, special teachers, and cafeteria workers. Together, we made it through the year.
Thank you, Dr. Marquardt and the administration for considering opening our playground.
Very dramatic. That was great.
Yes.
Hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah, nice job.
I've discovered if I just give them an occasional snow day and open the playgrounds, I'm the big man on campus for it.
Who knew?
Our next presentation tonight is one by David Hollister from Newmark Real Estate of Ohio. David is the individual who's been doing the highest best use study of the Newberry campus. You will all be getting, and I say you all, I'm talking to the board here, not everyone who's online will be getting this, but you'll all be getting, all board members will be getting a report that's approximately 60 pages long from Mr. Hollister this week, which will cover some of the elements of the Newberry campus and the study that he's conducted there and potential uses for the property. However, tonight, for the sake of time, he has put together a PowerPoint presentation that boils a lot of the contents of the report down to a few slides. So Mr. Hollister, if you would go ahead tonight and give the board an overview and a little taste of what they'll be getting from you this week, that would be appreciated.
You're on mute, Dave. You're on mute.
You think I'd figured that out by now. So I will try and sort of go past some of the areas that we discussed before and only treat them in as much from an update perspective. And I'll also forego certain parts of the report. I don't think you need me to tell you about Geauga County or the West G School District or the Newberry School District or the land itself. But sort of rehashing where we started before, we have basically 39 acres that we're looking at here. And if you go to the next slide, one of the first key studies was the environmental. And part of that was the wetlands. And that is basically how much land do we really have to play with here? And so the results of this wetland study, again, recapping sort of our discussion from a month ago, is it's more like 30 acres than 39 acres. And the good news is that all the wetlands is at one area. It's not scattered around, which would really compromise the property. Now, there is no slide for the environmental, but where we left off a month ago was that there were still some studies that had to be done regarding vapors around the bus garage. Now, the final report is not out yet, but HCW has concluded that there are no underground tanks to be removed. The soils under the bus garage would not need any special management, which would only be needed if you remove the bus garage and redevelop the area. And the great quote from them is, at this time, no further assessment is warranted. So that is a very nice update from the last report that we had. So moving on to the next slide. What was it exactly that I was hired to do? I was hired to basically investigate the land and try and figure out what's the best practicable use for that land. And in real estate parlance, it's highest and best use, which is defined in the graphics in the middle of this. And on the right, it discusses some of the possible uses that you would look into, such as community, religious, government, residential, office, and retail, including but not limited to. And then on the left is some of the sort of more specific guidelines that we had to keep an eye to in terms of the use of the land. And that is that it is important for the community and it's important for West G that this land be handled properly. Moving on from there, right to the uses, which again will be in the report that's coming out this week. The cake is baked. I just have to work on the frosting a little bit. The first use that I looked at was retail. There is a property next door that is retail that has struggled for a long period of time and was just starting to get a little bit of traction. Then COVID hit, which means A, it's struggling again, but B, in this post-COVID world, what exactly is the value of retail? I mean, there's a level of uncertainty that comes with that. Now, for retail to work, you need population density and disposable income, which you don't really have here. Moving on to industrial. It's a beautiful piece of land for industrial. However, it is in the wrong location. It has been said that it costs, let's see, 100 for every mile that a distribution center has to drive. It costs 100 to 150,000 a year. And just to get to 422, that would probably cost an industry $6 to $9 million annually. The other problem that you see in the area, which becomes very clear when you drive up and down 87, starting with Connecticut's sign, let us try and beat your wages. And there are plenty of help wanted signs. There's a real shortage of labor in Newbury. So those are two reasons why industrial can't work there. And in fact, last Friday, it was announced that 2 Geauga industrial companies were relocating to, it's 480 at Transportation, which is just east of the Valley View Bridge. And I can't say for sure those were cited reasons, but they are probably reasons that those people had to move because it's a much better location, much closer to labor. Moving on to the next slide. Another use that you see up and down 87 is flex space. Flex is some combination of office and warehouse, and it's usually mom and pop type enterprises, which again, you see up and down the road. Now, this is something that could work at this location. Now, it would take a good deal of time for any development to reach its full fruition. I mean, it's a good fit for area industry, but there's an uncertainty about how long it would take and what kind of a return you would get. And the other problem you go into, which is treated separately in the report, is zoning. You would need to change the zoning for this location. This location is currently R1 residential. And that's an expense to change zoning. And it's also, it takes some time. It takes at least 6 months to a year to change zoning. Moving on from there, the next use that we looked at, well, 2 pieces of it really. Housing. I mean, it's zoned for housing. So that is logical that you would do that there. The problem is in Geauga, the way housing works is at 3-acre minimums. Now that's a low return for a developer. And in order to change that, you again would need to change the zoning. Now we are helped a little bit in terms of our ability to put more houses on there by the fact that we are reserving land due to wetlands. And that moves on to our next piece, which is traditional housing. But going back momentarily to the cluster housing, if you don't mind going back one slide. The 2 things that you really need there is you need access to sewage and you need access to sufficient water supplies. Now the well there is probably pretty strong given that it's supplied a school, but the ideal would be city water. But the kicker on this one is the fact that you would need to change the zoning. Change the zoning, which is also, as discussed before, it's an expense and it's amount of time spent doing it.
David, can I ask a
Yeah.
question? Does that
Yep.
include something that's similar to something maybe like Auburn Lakes? That would be it's somewhat cluster, but it's got some individual houses, but some, houses that are connected to one another, or, a senior citizen.
Well, there's senior citizens, a different thing, but it'd be more along, another example might be Chatham Glen, which is a little bit further west of this location, where they're able to put houses a little bit close together due to the fact that they reserve some space. Another one is a new Pain and Pain development out by Chardon on Aurora Road, where there's a lot of houses close together, but there's 38 acres that they reserved that they would not do any development on.
Okay, so some of these things are a little bit different, but they basically fall under the same umbrella.
It's a tweak.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
preservation of open spaces clause in the zoning, where if you do set aside land, it gives you a little bit more leeway to put more houses there. But it doesn't allow you to do this sort of, I hate the word cluster housing, but in the slide it's townhouses, which is probably a better word, but
Yeah.
does not allow you the ability to put a lot of houses on property in Geauga County.
I've just seen recently a lot of money go into, I forget what the name of the area is, off of Fairmont and not Rockside, Rockhaven, which is a kind of a senior citizen health center.
Right.
They've totally upgraded that. They obviously put a lot of money into that. And then the Alzheimer's Center that's been built on 306 near the Federated Church Family Life Center.
Yeah.
So
Lantern. You're referring to the Lantern.
Yeah, so there's a lot of money that are going into those kinds of facilities.
And the good thing about those facilities is you actually don't need any parking.
Yeah.
Because it's, assisted living or it's memory care.
Yeah.
So you don't need much parking there.
Yeah. Okay.
But Lantern, I think, was, it takes a long time for dementia-related assisted living to gear up, because you're talking about really giving a jolt to the people who go in there. So you don't start it and open it 100% day one. You kind of scale it in, and I know they've scaled it in, but I'm not sure how well they're doing at that location.
Yeah. Yeah, you see the one on 306 had very little, it seems, activity for a while, but now there are a lot more cars there. So I think a lot more patients coming in or people coming in. And as you say, it's taken a while to get it up and running.
Yes.
Okay.
So moving on to from there to the one more slide. Somebody had asked earlier about a sports center. Believe it or not, it was Kathy who had asked me to look at that back in November. And that industry has changed a lot. It used to be, somebody who was a local person had a batting cage and a gym, and people, local people went there and local teams went there. It's become a lot more corporatized. And really the model is predicated upon getting people there and making them stay there and making them spend money at your hotel and at your restaurant. And the ideal example of that would be Sports Park by Cedar Point, where there's a baseball tournament location there. And I don't know if they even make money, but their whole premise is that we're bringing you here to be, again, at our hotel, at our restaurants, and we hope you go to Cedar Point while you're here. So this is not a location that would work for that. And it's also fraught with risk. I mean, two of the locations that were cited, Spire being the obvious one, is on to at least its second, if not its third owner. I mean, it very much struggled. And there's another location. Victory Park in North Ridgeville. which is actually now owned by an electrician who put a lien on the property because he hadn't been paid, and the first owner went bankrupt. So it's a very difficult business. Which brings us to the last point, which is the community center. Now the north building, for this to work, the north building would have to be brought up to code, and it has existing fields there, so it could theoretically work. The main building really has to come down. It's riddled with asbestos. It's functionally obsolete. In order for somebody to put the amount of money into it that would require to make it a functional building, the amount of money you would have to put in would far exceed any pro forma that makes any sense for the utilization of the space. And it's just a massive amount of money to carry a property like that. Now, the community center, regarding the other location, there are two things that need to occur there. There are two fundraisers that have to occur, as it were. One is to make the property into what the community center wants it to be. But the second point that a lot of projects like this forget is that, okay, we've raised the money to make the place work as an existing location. However, now we have to operate it. And it probably costs about $4 to $5 a square foot to operate a building that is not, I mean, this location would not be paying property taxes, so it's a little bit lower, but it would probably cost $4 to $5 a square foot to operate was, a 23,000 square foot building. So you're talking about an annual budget of at minimum 75,000, probably more like 100,000 to run the building. And that's not even counting if there are any people going to be hired there. So it is use that's definitely in keeping with the district's mission. But there's a low return, and it requires, again, significant funding that might be difficult to raise to operate a facility such as this.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
When you say $5 a square foot to run it, is that normal operating like water, or electricity and heating and such, or would that include the maintenance like repairing roofs and air conditioners that would be needed as well?
Well, the good rule of thumb, I would take a commercial building, say, okay, it costs $7.50 to $8 to run. So you back the taxes out of there, which are probably, $2 to $2.50. And then sort of the long answer to your short question is, yes, you're left with, there's ongoing maintenance, there's landscaping, there's plowing, there's heating it, there's cooling it, there's repairing the roof.
Okay.
All those things you got to assume is probably going to be around $4 to $5 a square foot per year.
Yeah. Okay. So it does include the long-term kinds of costs. I mean, you aren't going to have to put on a new roof every year, but every 10 years or whatever, that cost is figured into that $5.
Or another example like that is heating and air conditioning.
Yeah.
You've got an air conditioning unit on the roof possibly that works for 20 years, so you don't have to replace it every year, but you got to factor into your costs some reserve cash to pay for that when it happens, which is part of that $5 per square foot.
Okay, thanks.
So, David, pretty much every scenario involves doing away with the main building.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Are you, or have you calculated what kind of taxes we could expect to accrue from these different options?
No, I have not.
Okay. Because I would assume, like, if we got a zoning change and had 30 dwelling units there, I mean, we might bring in, like 80,000, 90,000 a year or something. What I would assume that would be part of our calculation, wouldn't it? What return it would give the district?
80, what kind of units? I'm sorry.
Well, I'm saying, say we had 30 housing units on the property.
Well, I'm thinking it's going to be more like 8 to 12 under current zoning.
So that's the traditional housing.
The traditional house is probably 8 to 12, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's in, it's got a sewer district that covers that. And presumably that would give us the grounds to ask for a higher density. Of course, we might just incur the animosity of the entire community because I don't think that would be very popular. So yeah, we might be down to the 8 or 10 units.
Well, the fact that you're setting aside the wetlands gives you a little bit more density, which kind of gets me to that 12, 13 number. But you also have to factor in that you need to put in a road, and you probably don't, the first couple of houses, you probably don't want them right on top of the street. So I'm being a conservative, saying it's probably more like 8 to 10 houses.
Yeah.
David, that would be the only traditional residential housing is the only use to which the property could be put now, other than it being a school, correct? That would not require a zoning change if the property were sold.
Well, the zoning change, it could be, I don't want to get too technical, but there's zoning change or variance. Let's just say some amendment to zoning would probably be a better way of saying it.
Okay, thank you.
Would the community center need an amendment to zoning as well?
My guess, and the state of Ohio real estate licensing hates when I pretend to be a lawyer, but I would suggest there's probably sort of a continuing use variance
Yeah.
that you could apply for.
It also depends on their structure. If it's a governmental agency, it doesn't need to conform with zoning.
Yeah,
So-
and you're grandfathered, I guess was the better term that I was looking for. And it's something that the community wants. So it would not be something that would be met with hostility, certainly.
Yeah, even if it had to be changed, it'd be easier to change that than to change to townhouses, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that I don't think people realize, and to our credit, we've been doing a good job of trying to maintain the look and the landscaping and whatever to keep it looking kept up. But that makes the building look all right on the outside, but people don't realize what the main building is like on the inside. And they also don't know when they think about, okay, well, maybe we could save the gym and the cafeteria or the back part, the eastern part of the larger building. And I guess the gym is the only part of it that's in fairly good shape. That the cafeteria is leaking. I mean, we got terrible leaks in the roof of the three-story part, the front part, and in the cafeteria, and the whole building is heated and by the physical plant that's in the front part of the building. So in order to maintain or to go back and to even preserve anything in the back of the building, we'd have to build a whole new power plant to I think I'm right on this
Yeah, I think you are.
keep that back part functioning. So, I think the information to the community, they need to understand what the restrictions and the things that tie hands are involved there. And when you mention the asbestos, I mean, that's a major thing in and of itself to try and, it would be better to take that building down and build another one if somebody wanted to have some kind of a structure there, because it would just be to try and bring it up to code is prohibited.
To add to your point about the asbestos, anytime you have asbestos that's, contained in tiles and it's not friable yet, it's sitting there, it's there. To redo a building like that just opens a tremendous can of worms and a huge amount of expense, because all of a sudden you're releasing that asbestos. It's much
Yeah.
better to, in that situation, to bring the building down.
Well, I've been around long enough that I remember when we went through this with Chester School, and it was posted in many places on the building that there was asbestos. And yet, once we negotiated with the Chester trustees to have them buy the building, they said, we didn't know there was asbestos in the building. And we're well, maybe you needed to read the signs. It might have been a good idea for you to pay attention, but that added obviously a lot of additional cost in order to raise that building.
Yeah, well, you can do practically anything with a building you want if you have enough money.
Yeah, right.
That's what it comes down to. And that building's going to be an expensive one. I mean, for instance, you could argue that taking down the front part and getting rid of the old heating plant is a good thing because you put in more efficient heating, except you're going to have to pay for the new heating.
Yeah.
So, and the same with the asbestos. I mean, you can encapsulate it. Encapsulated in situ is the standard that you use when renovating, but then you suddenly have a new cost in your renovation, which in that building is probably going to be huge. And
Yeah.
it would be huge to take down the front building and, the costs of demolition and leave the back building standing. So those are all considerations. I mean, a lot depends on what Newbury taxpayers are willing to pay for, and if in fact there is any revenue coming in from the different uses. Because if you remember with Russell School, there were lots of people who said, yeah, we'd love to use Russell School if the township renovated it, but nobody wanted to pay anything.
Right. Well, and you can't just take down the front part of the building, and you need to keep some structural integrity to around the gym and the cafeteria. So there needs to be more work done to not only sustain the walls and as I said, the structural integrity of what's left there. So it's not just, okay, we'll knock this part down and then rebuild.
You have to do considerable repair work on the cafeteria already. I mean,
Right.
As you said, there are terrible leaks in that part. So preserving that part of the back building is, it has its own set of expenses.
Yeah.
In addition to whatever you want to do with it.
Right. And for use, I mean, yeah, there's a cafeteria there, or there's a kitchen there, but we've already utilized whatever equipment we can use out of that would be helpful to our operation on the West G campuses. And I know that I mentioned to Rich the other day that the Federated Church Community Life Center there are people using the kitchens out there for preparing foods for catering or for other operations, and they rent out space. But that's something that's been suggested. I think that space could be used, but there's not the equipment in there any longer. And as you just said, Chet, that structure itself is not sound. So
not to mention that Federated is actually looking at trying to figure out, they've run into that operating expense trap.
Yeah.
Where they're just trying to figure out, they've got 3 different buildings that they're trying to figure out. We can't continue to maintain and operate all 3 of these buildings. So they've been looking at it for the last couple of years of, okay, what is our future hold? How many buildings are we? We're not 3, but which 2 are we, or which 1 are we?
Yeah. And their structure out there, I mean, the one on 306 is a relatively new, comparatively to Newbury School, is a newer building. I mean, it's, I think in fairly good shape. It's not leaking. I don't know, but I'm assuming that it's
in very good shape.
It's less than 15 years old. It's less than 15 years old.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about a kitchen is there's a lot of infrastructure you need along with it. There's one that a nonprofit called The Well runs in Akron out of an old church, a massive old church, which was turned over by the Congregation for Community Use. And they went into that thinking they had a great kitchen, and they ended up having to get grants for hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to do the things they needed. They needed storage areas, they needed separate coolers, They needed to upgrade their fire suppression system and ventilation and so on. So by the time they were done, fortunately, they were able to get grants for this and leverage quite a bit. And but it does not really sustain itself as far as I know. I can check on that. The people in Newbury, I'm sure, would want to know. But you need a source of outside funding to make these things work. And in Akron, they have that because the city provides some funding through various grant sources, and there are other private grants that the well gets. So I think it'd be interesting for Newbury to look at that and consider whether they want to, for instance, there is presumably, from everything I hear, a big demand for commercial kitchens that are available for rent, but maybe it's a matter of locating the commercial kitchen in the auditorium building, because there are hundreds of thousands of, not hundreds of thousands, there are tens of thousands of square feet in that building, and a brand new commercial kitchen could be put in, which absolutely fulfilled the needs and the codes and so on. So those are things which we're not going to look at, but I hope Newbury looks at. And
What, David?
Yeah.
What are the things that need to be done to bring this building that we're looking at right now, the northern building, up to code so that it could be utilized for a community performing facility?
I don't know.
Okay. But there are things that need to happen in order for that to be viable. I think Rich mentioned that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you make an assumption, and that assumption always winds up growing into what you need.
Okay.
That would definitely require a separate analysis.
Yeah. Okay.
David, you made comments about the expense of bringing the main building up, and you mentioned several of the things that need to be done there would have to be taken in consideration. In the full 60-page report, are there more details about what costs would be involved in that?
No, there are not.
Okay.
are any demolition costs in the report? Standard estimates or anything?
I could add them. I mean, they have been discussed.
Yeah, because that'd be really great if we had some standard per square foot estimates, and then maybe an addendum about excess asbestos being found beyond what would be covered in a standard estimate.
And probably any further use of that property would require a different standard of demo where the land is properly filled afterwards. So yeah, I could put that in there.
Yeah.
That'd be a very good addition. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, when we see those demo costs, we'll be begging Newbury. You could use this.
Well, we got
Worry
demo
about
costs. We got an initial demo cost a year ago.
It's got to be close to 7 figures, if not slightly over.
It's more.
That's
I would
consistent
think.
with what we heard a year ago, yes. Do we have more questions for Mr. Hollister? Going once? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Report.
Thank you.
Mr. Kish, do we have anyone signed up for
We
public?
have no one in the chat room.
No one in the chat room. Okay, then let's move on. Routine items. Yeah,
Move approval.
Aaron is on mute.
Resolution 154 to approve routine matters of the West Geauga Local Board of Education.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Katsowski.
Yes.
Ms. Leavenworth.
Yes.
Mr. Ramey.
Yes.
Dr. Beers.
Yes.
Dr. Markwart.
Resolution 155 is to accept an administrative staff resignation.
So move.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Leavenworth.
Yes.
Mr. Ramey.
Yes.
Dr. Beers,
Yes.
Mr. Katsowski.
Yes.
We'd like to congratulate Deborah as she assumes her new position at the Geauga County and now Lake County Educational Service Center.
When does she start that, Rich?
Pardon me?
When does she begin?
July or August. I don't know when
Yeah.
her contract starts.
Okay. Yeah, and a thank you for her service from the board.
Yes.
Thank you, Deborah.
Yes, thank you.
Resolution 156 is a resolution to transfer an administrative position.
So move.
Second,
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ramey,
Yes.
Dr. Beers,
Yes.
Mr. Katsowski,
Yes.
Leavenworth.
yes,
And congratulations to Mr. Kish as he assumes the principalship of Westwood Elementary School. Congratulations, Jim.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna deal with those young kids, Jim.
I'm excited. I've spent quite a bit of time in those buildings, and I think it's going to be a really fun time.
Yeah.
A lot of great work.
Look
There's a lot of great
excited.
people there.
Look excited.
I am. You know me, I'm always excited.
Resolution 157 is to accept certified staff resignations.
So move,
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Beers,
Yes.
Mr. Katsowski,
Yes.
Leavenworth,
yes,
Mr. Ramey.
Yes.
Thank you. And wish all these individuals well. Resolution 158 is to approve certified staff appointment for the 2021-2022 school year.
so move,
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Katsowski,
Yes.
Leavenworth,
yes,
Mr. Ramey,
Yes.
Dr. Beers.
Yes.
Dr. Benincasa, is Ms. Wiley in attendance tonight, do you know, or not? Would you like to tell us a little bit about her?
I'd be happy to.
Oh, Amy will, okay.
I was going to say Amy would love to. Paula is not here this evening. She comes to us with a wealth of experience, both from living out of state and performing her duties as a speech pathologist in the grade levels. But what particularly enticed us was she's currently working for the Cuyahoga Board of Developmental Disabilities, and she has a lot of birth to 3 experience. And a major part of her role with the district will be assuming some of the preschool duties and child find so that we can start serving our preschoolers. We have outsourced to the county for a number of years, and we desire very much to bring a lot of that back in-house. So she will be working over at Westwood with Jim and staff, and then also dividing her time with the county as well, and starting to transition some of those services to under our roof.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution 159 is to approve a change in certified contract in the form of certified salary movement for the 2021-2022 school year.
So move.
second,
Roll call, please.
Ms. Leavenworth,
yes,
Mr. Ramey,
Yes.
Dr. Beers,
Yes.
Mr. Katsowski.
Yes.
Resolution 160 is to accept a classified staff resignation.
so move,
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ramey,
Yes.
Dr. Beers,
Yes.
Mr. Katsowski,
Yes.
Ms. Leavenworth.
yes,
Resolution 161 is to approve classified probationary contracts for the 2021-2022 school year.
So move.
second,
Roll call, please.
Dr. Beers,
Yes.
Mr. Katsowski,
Yes.
Leavenworth,
yes,
Mr. Ramey.
Did we get that one?
Yes.
You were holding remarkably still, Chet. That was amazing.
I know. Resolution 162 is to approve the 2021 summer curriculum writing stipends.
so move,
Second.
Roll call, please.
What exactly are the summer curriculum writing stipends?
Nancy, would you like to explain what you're having people do for those? Dr.
Yes.
Benincasa.
muting and unmuting myself. So there are two sets of curriculum writing supplemental contracts going out tonight. One is Megan Bellin and Tori Ween, who are going to start working on mirroring the work that has been done 3 to 5 in terms of aligning our curricula for our ELA programming and getting the pacing guides and the common assessments and everything required in step so that they can begin the year in the fall. Excuse me, I'm admitting people now too. I'm double rolling it, Jim. I'm trying to do both.
Hey, Nancy, for a second, when you're explaining, don't
Sure.
use acronyms.
Sure, I'm so
ELA.
sorry.
Okay,
Pardon
thank
me,
you.
for the English language arts curriculum. So a lot of work this year has gone on, and it's actually gone on for several years. What has taken several years to accomplish in grades 3 through 5. We want that work to be established in the summer before the beginning of the school year in grades kindergarten through 2nd, so that as our teachers work in their professional learning communities and their common planning time together, they have common ground to start with. It will help Jim get on board as well, so that work can be done in a teaming environment at the beginning of the school year. So that is that particular stipend. Amy can speak also to the secondary stipend, which will be Jackie Hirsch, Leah Kirkpatrick, and Kim Leonardi, as they are going to be writing some curricula and some of the social emotional needs that we're going to be implementing moving forward. And Amy, I'll let you discuss that.
Sure. Kim Leonardi is doing some curriculum writing for our students with some more intensive needs and that she serves. So that will be very valuable to us. And then Leah and Jackie, one of the biggest concerns that we have with our students at the secondary level is executive functioning in terms of organization of work and how do I fill out my planner? How do I access work if I miss my class? Just all sorts of things that for some students comes very naturally, and for some it really needs to be explicitly taught. So they will be writing a curriculum for that over the summer, and it will be immensely valuable for our students as they leave elementary and transition into secondary.
So what are other places that you want to strengthen the curriculum that we're doing this for? I mean, we're obviously doing this for a reason because there are things that we want to improve. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I won't talk about the literacy initiative because I fear that you don't want to hear me talking about it anymore, but it's, again, super exciting and I'm happy to talk about it more if you'd like. But basically this is the next natural chapter, I believe, in the literacy work that certainly is not an administrative work. It is a collegial, collaborative amount of work that has been done through a team of people, which includes administrators and teaching staff. We have worked hard to align our curriculum in terms of our literacy instruction, K-5 in particular, by filling in gaps and utilizing and electing to buy common resources. So I keep coming back to you and making you bit by bit over the past several years, I believe it's 4 years in total, approve curriculum, resource materials, purchases for the district. So what this will do is this curriculum writing piece ties everything together. It puts us on a pacing guide. It allows our teachers a map that guides our instruction day to day. It allows them to have common language in terms of the content that they're teaching and the way that they're assessing students so that we can, with equity, find out places where students are falling behind. So it really is a way to bring all of the pieces of that literacy education together. And it also helps our teachers in that the work is done in the summer to get them prepared for the fall. It's hard to do this kind of curricular work in the school year, although we have done it for the past several years while teaching full-time, going back to our professional learning committees, getting their input at grade level. This is an attempt to get a head start so that our kindergarten, first grade, and second grade professional learning communities have something common right out of the gate so that they aren't trying to teach in real time, educate in real time, assess in real time, and write curriculum in real time. It's very, very difficult for individual teachers to do all those things at the same time. So this is an effect to get us further than we could, what would take much longer in the course of a school year, why kids are with us.
Okay, thank you.
Resolution 163 is to approve the 2021 summer opportunities, otherwise known as summer school stipends.
I'm sorry, Dr. Margaret.
We didn't vote on the other.
You
Vote
know, on that one first.
All these questions, come on, sorry. Thought I was doing so well.
Aye.
Mr. Katsowski.
Yes.
Ms. Leavenworth.
Yes.
Mr. Ramey.
Yes.
Dr. Beard.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Now for my encore performance, I'm going to read this again. Resolution 163 is to approve the 2021 summer opportunities, otherwise known as summer school stipends.
So move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Leavenworth.
Yes.
Mr. Ramey.
Yes.
Dr. Beers.
Yes.
Mr. Katsowski.
Yes.
Resolution 164 is to approve the West Geauga Marching Band trip to London in December 2022. And I just saw Mr. Branch perk up his little ears, so
Yes.
he's with us.
I move approval.
There's Taylor as well. Taylor and Jason are both here.
Well, I'm going to second this time because this is really exciting and both my kids are jealous.
I'll bet.
I didn't see an appropriation for the board to go, so I'm kind of on the fence.
The announcement, administration and board welcome, so you can always work on carving that out.
I see Jason
change
and
the wording if
Taylor
you'd
on the
like.
screen. You're getting
Yeah.
woo-hoo.
Yeah, they're jumping up and down. Any more discussion, or have we killed it?
Well, no, do you guys have any questions for us about it? We've worked with the London committee as they postpone our invitation, and we added some things to our trip document that are just some more specifics, and we're here to answer any questions if you guys have them.
Good. I haven't gone into the document. Jason, what's the timing?
Sure. They would like us to travel now from December 27th of 2022 to January 23rd of 23. And they'd like travelers to put down a $100 deposit by November 1st of this year.
What's the January date? January
3rd of 2023.
Oh, January 3rd. Oh, that's great.
So it's an 8-day trip.
Yeah. What an opportunity. That's great.
I did read it, but I don't recall. Was there something about students who had missed the year being able to go or perform?
Yes, the current junior class would have been going on this trip next school year, but they'll be graduated and gone. And one consolation I'd like to maybe entertain is if anybody has graduated out and doesn't get to go on the trip because they are now graduating, we would like to see if they could be welcome to attend the trip as either guests or performers.
Well,
great. That's such a highlight of someone's high school years.
Rehearsal might be a bit of a challenge, but I think it's a great opportunity. And have any of them, I assume some of them have expressed interest in doing this already?
Yeah, and some high schoolers are really interested in the opportunity to go, and some of them would want nothing more than to not go because they're out of high school and they don't want to travel with their high school friends. But I think we have people on both sides of the coin for that.
That's too bad. It's a great trip.
Can you, Jason, if there were some of us that are thinking that we could go along and pay our own way and help in some way, kind of keep that in mind too, how we could structure that.
Sure. The London Parade Committee says that the student packages that they offer are also available to parents and people in our school buildings, like teachers and administration. So if anybody hearing my voice wants to go, you're welcome to come with us. You just might have to pay for yourself to go.
You won't have to pay. We're not paying.
Right. Yeah, mine was to soften the blow.
Okay.
Really work.
So when are you starting the fundraising?
Now, can I have $600,000, please?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Wow, that was easy. We didn't.
Good to start high, though.
That's great.
Mrs. DeSapri, have I missed any details from our change from last year?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think just the $100 deposit that will be refundable if there are any further delays will be due this November. And I think that's it.
Great.
No.
Any more questions from the board? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ramey,
Yes.
Dr. Beers,
Definitely.
Mr. Katsowski,
Yes.
Miss Leavenworth.
Yes, for sure.
Hey, thanks everybody.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got a fabulous organization. Keep it going.
Thank you so
We-
much.
Oh,
We
I
appreciate
did
the
want to
support.
say, I did want to say one thing, that I'm really impressed at the projected band size for that trip. 160 to 200 people. That's great.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we were at 170 this year, and when people hear things like Disney World and London, they just, who wouldn't want to be in that band, right?
Yeah. I don't know how to play anything, but I want to be in the band.
We'll teach you. We have a triangle for you.
You can be a cheerleader, Kathy.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about other. I'd have to bring my piano along, I guess.
Put it on wheels. We'll make it work.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I guess this seems a little anticlimactic, but Resolution 165 is to approve the first reading of new board policy 6424 and the revised board policies listed in your agenda.
So move.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Dr. Beers,
Yes.
Mr. Katsowski,
Yes.
Leavenworth,
Yes.
Mr. Ramey.
Yes.
Resolution 166 is to approve a service agreement between ABA Outreach Services and West Geauga School District.
Don't move.
Second.
What is this, Rich?
Applied behavior analysis, it's an intervention strategy for utilization with students that works on the roots of behavior and how to anticipate behavior and how to address behavior when it arises.
Okay.
I read the contract. Is this geared at an individual student? Or is,
Amy, do you have any specifics in terms of how many students this addresses?
It's for a particular need.
yeah, that's what it sounded like in the contract. Okay, thanks.
Any more questions? Roll call.
Mr. Katsowski,
Yes.
Leavenworth,
Yes.
Mr. Ramey. Mr. Ramey.
Yes.
Dr. Beers,
Chat.
Yes.
Wake up.
Still here.
Resolution 167 is to approve an addendum to the ESC of the Western Reserve Aligned School District Service Agreement with West Geauga Local School District for the 2021-2022 school year.
So move.
Second.
Questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Leavenworth,
Yes.
Ramey,
Yes.
Dr. Beers,
Yes.
Mr. Katsowski.
Yes.
Okay, Rich, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I've been doing a lot of the talking tonight, it seems. Just a couple reminders to the board. One, now that the board will be receiving the Newberry campus report from Mr. Hollister, there'll be some work that needs to be done in terms of deciding how the board wishes to proceed and what options the board wishes to explore on this. I'd also like to report that we've finished our state testing. The window has now closed. I want to thank all the teachers, all the students, all the families, and all the administrators who worked so hard to make this come off without a glitch this year. We had almost unanimous response, even from our parents who were remote. I believe we only had one family whose children did not report for testing in elementary through middle school. So the parents were great to have their students who have been, many of whom have been remote this year, come in for the state testing. So we're very grateful for that. I guess the big news this week is that Mr. Bishop and Mr. Cripple and yours truly are going to prom along with some of the advisors and the seniors this year. And it's sort of strange to think that there's going to be a prom this year, but there is in fact going to be one. And so we're gearing up for that. So thanks to the advisors who put that together and for the senior class officers, et cetera. And we also have plans underway now for graduation and putting the finishing touches, I suppose you'd say, on that. So the lion's share of the work here has gone to Mr. Bishop. So thanks, Jay, for all the work you do for our kids. And I know that you do so with a very willing heart.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. And thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
I have not heard about any board reports, but does anyone wish to present one? To Jay, who's apparently still on camera. No? Okay, then I would like a resolution to adjourn to executive session.
So moved.
Just as a reminder, we'll need the principals in executive session tonight with us.
Yep.
So move.
Or
I'll
second,
second.
fine.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Ramey,
Yes.
Dr. Beers,
Yes.
Mr. Gutowski,
Yes.
Leavenworth.
Yes.
Okay.
Next meeting is Monday, the 24th, 7 PM, virtual. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Can I get a roll call quickly?
Dr. Beers,
I've been having so much fun here tonight.
You want to say, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Mute Bill.
all right, you only need 3 votes, guys. Mr. Gutowski,
Aye, aye.
Yes.
Ms.
All
Leavenworth,
right.
Mr.
Thank
Ramey.
you, thank you, Jim.